countdown. But we are going to certainly get ourselves nicely sorted. And I'm also very going to quickly pop over to the Facebook page and turn, as always, that post to public, which means you can share it with your friends, share it with any Facebook groups, including the CVA, my good friends. Slight sarcasm there, but I will explain that to Rob and to after the fact. Yeah, this is what happens when you put a post on a Facebook group and neglect to look at their promo rules.
Okay,
and then your post gets taken down.
I've fallen foul of that myself, but
oh yes, right. So hello there, everybody. It's just coming up to 6 o'clock. We're 2 minutes away from getting started with the show. We are waiting on one of our other guests to join us, but he did say he was going to be a couple of minutes late, so that's understandable. But I've got Rob to talk to as well, so plenty of stuff to get into. As always, if you have got a notification about this video going live, that means you have notifications. You're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You've got the little bell clicked, and that means that you are now fully aware that we're up and running with Talkin Con on a Sunday. We've had some great guests this week. Do go check out the channel. I know that we'll be having one or two fresh faces to this, because I know that Rob will get a couple of people to watch, and I'll know that Mark will get a couple of people. If you haven't seen this channel before, if you don't know what we're all about, go and check out An Englishman in San Diego on YouTube, because throughout the course of the lockdown, do not ask how the hell we've done it, but we've managed to land some absolutely stunning guests. It's blown me away with only one dropout. Thank you very much indeed, Bill Sienkiewicz. Really appreciate that. But we are going to try and get him back at a later date. But the rest of the it's just been insane. It's just been an incredible lineup. Go and check out the videos, because we've had a great time on the channel throughout the course of lockdown, talking comics and Comic Cons. Of course, if you can support us, allows us to keep all the lights on, as it were. Do head to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC. Every penny goes into the pot, and it basically pays for the licenses, pays for the website, pays for the hosting. All of this, I don't take anything for myself. Let's put it this way. My OK Comics bill came through on Thursday, which they said, we'll mail out your comics this week, but you got to pay for them. And I went, okay, fine. I do not pull any penny from the Patreon money. I pay for my comics all on my own back. So, yeah. That's the way it works. Sarita P, I don't know if you caught our message on the Wednesday show. Just wanted to wish you all the best. Happy birthday. Sarita's joining us. Hello there. Welcome along. Into the Blue Mister is saying, afternoon, all momentous YouTube occasion. Know that Dragon docking with the ISS. I mean, another great Talking Con episode. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that indeed. And Michael P, good morning all. I know that the vast majority of people who do watch this show are very much the US based. Thank you very much indeed. I know that at this point, on the other side of the pond, you are not having the best of time at it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not making light, but I'm just kind of trying to be a little bit glib, just to kind of lighten the mood. It's not great over there at the moment. Stay safe. Do what you can to support, be an ally by all means, but yeah, do try and stay safe by all means. But there you go. Yeah, Sarita P, thank you, Mister. Yeah, we wish you all the best. A very happy birthday to you, Sarita. We always try and wish the best to all of our long-term viewers, and Sarita's always been a good fan and supporter. So thank you very much indeed for coming on. Right. Welcome to Talking Con, a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. I have got my tea. It's not as big as I'd like it, because I think this is going to be a big show with a lot of chat and a lot of good chat, but it'll do me for now. It'll keep me sustanced throughout the course. As always, we got the chat on all of the channels. If you are watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, if you could put a comment, please. Just say hello and let me know that a Facebook comment is coming in, because we did a couple of streams last week. They're supposed to, when they go into the comment section of the Facebook video, they're supposed to show up in my dashboard here, and apparently they haven't done. So do let me know if you are watching on Facebook. If you are watching on Facebook, if you're watching on my public profile, these videos on a Wednesday and a Sunday must confuse the hell out of you, because we just talk about comics and Comic-Cons. It's very, very weird. Excellent. Andrew Dickens says hello. Hello, testing. It's working. Fantastic indeed. Jump in with anything that you would like to ask our guests, anything you'd like to talk about in terms of comics, Comic-Cons, pop culture. I mean, we've got ourselves Michael P. say, did everyone catch the Lord of the Rings reunion on YouTube? Missed it, but I did watch all the SpaceX nonsense, including the astronauts going into the ISS this afternoon, which was very exciting. It was big, big stuff, which means I think I might as well just bring in my special guest to find out what he's been distracting himself with. Hello, Rob Jones. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm all right. Thank you very much. I'm really good. Got my mug.
Okay. What is your tea? Is it Tetley? Is it Typhoo? Is it PG Tips? PG Tips.
My girlfriend's very big on PG Tips, and don't argue. It's PG Tips. It's good. Best cup of tea. So yes, PG Tips. But distracting myself with mainly work. If I'm completely honest with you, I've been working full time through the lockdown anyway. I work as a support worker, but also do obviously comic writing and lettering. I've had quite a lot of lettering on, to be fair. Working on a fair amount of stuff, ranging from I've been working on today an adaptation of Richard III, which is pretty cool. I've also been working on stuff which involves kind of think like a battle world. Like there's a comic I'm working on called Battle Royale Planet, which is currently on Kickstarter, which is absolutely nuts. There's all sorts of stuff. I'm working on some stuff from Fraser Campbell as well. He did a thing on Twitter where he shared a 2-page script he'd written called The Wizened Fist, and he's asked me to letter some of the pages that were submitted to that, so that's been quite fun as well. So mainly, I'm going to say mainly work, but my girlfriend and I did the Marvel Cinematic Universe run through and stuff. She'd actually never seen all of them before, so that was a lot of fun. I've been reading Manhattan Projects by
you are basically getting through every single question that I was about to ask you. You're just blitzing through because we're going to take it. Let's take this time, man.
If you've ever come to see me at a con, you know I'm a bit of a motor mouth, so that doesn't got a bit of a rep for it.
I mean, well, Mark's just turned around and said, "I'm on my way. I'm just having tech issues. He'll sort himself out shortly. He'll come and join us." But I mean, I think first things first. Sorry, can you just get that door as well for us? I think first things first, to introduce yourself, because we kind of blitzed all that past that bit, because maybe there may be some people watching who don't know who you are, sir. I mean, this is what you have to remember. I mean, considering that Michael P is asking, is Rob Jones actually really Carl Urban is in disguise? Which, I mean, if I just...
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I can go with that. I could see it.
Try to pull the dread thing. I get called that a lot, to be fair. People say I do look like Carl Urban, so it might be the beard.
I get Dara O'Brien, which I can deal with it. I'm 6'4". I'm about the same height. I got no hair like he has. I haven't got remotely the ability to command a crowd like he does. But I'll take it. And quite frankly, between Carl Urban and Dara O'Brien, I'd take Carl Urban any day of the week. So I think we're right.
The mighty dread chin. Okay, so introductions.
Yeah, go for it, sir. Introduce yourself, and what in the way of comics do you do? All
right, so I work with a kind of comic collective. We call ourselves Madius Comics. There's myself, Mike Sambrook, Rosie Packwood, Brad Holman, and Alexa Renee, and we do weird, strange, kind of quirky comics. Mike and I write. Rosie, Alexa, and Brad are all kind of artists and designers. So we've done stuff. We've done 5 successful Kickstarters for that so far, and Mike and I have also written some stuff for places like Comic House and things like that. But on top of that, I also do lettering. So I do comic book lettering, so speech bubbles, sound effects. I do graphic design for people and things like that as well. I did some stuff on the 24 Panels comic, which was an Image comic that was done to help raise money for people suffering with PTSD following the Grenfell Tower fire. It's just come out in the last couple of months, where Humanoids, they did a comic called Nick Nevin and the Bloody Queen. Covers by Jock, covers incredible. The art's by Dom Reardon, colors are by Lee Luffridge, and it's written by a lady named Helen Mullane. And it's fantastic. It's kind of it's a very British comic as well. It's all set in Britain. Very big on the folklore kind of stuff. So if anyone's been following like British comic writers like John Reppion, they've been doing like their Folklore Thursday. Him and PJ Holden have been doing a Folklore Thursday comic, which is cool. So I've lettered Commando for DC Thompson. I'm the first letterer in Commando comics history to be able to use sound effects and colored sound effects as well, which is quite nice. So that was the Ramses Raider reissue. So I got to letter all that. I've also done a few of the books for them as well. For a while, I was lettering the Bruns and Willie. I'm sorry for any Scottish watchers who my pronunciation of that terrible. But that was really cool. I got to do that for the Scottish Sunday Post, and I letter for copious small press stuff. I'm working on pitches, which I'm not allowed to kind of talk about at the moment, but they've gone to some bigger publishers and stuff. So yeah, it's something that I won't lie. 7 years ago, I didn't think I'd be doing. And when I started writing comics about 6 years ago with Mike, I learned to letter because I didn't know any letterers and didn't really think about it that much. And just kind of worked from there and got carried on working on it. And it's a nice little side job at the moment, which is getting to the point where... It's an underrated element of comics creation. And I think, I mean, people can... I open up a comic and obviously the first thing is you get the art and you get swept up in the story and you get the characters. But if the lettering just looks like someone's boshed it together in sort of MS Paint or something daft, and just it just really feels like when you're watching a film and the sound's not right, and it just doesn't have the kind of, it doesn't. It can make, for me, it can make and break a comic. It can really kind of ruin it. I mean, you see it with a lot of Kickstarters. You see it with a lot of self-published where they just, it's an element that they just think, oh god, oh shit, I thought, oh yeah, I've actually got to put the words to the page, and it's almost like a forgotten element of it. Yeah, well, this is the thing, and obviously, again, I mean, like, fully hands up, saying, at first it was like that when Mike and I started out. I started talking to some as I got to know more and more people, started talking to other letterers and listening and taking constructive criticism. It's something where I really kind of worked on the stuff that Mike and I were producing through Madius, and bettered myself through there. And then people started asking if I'd letter stuff for them, and again I kind of worked on things like that, and really sat down and practiced and put work in. And obviously it's got to the point where I've been doing it's doing stuff and things like that, which is, it's really nice to walk into Waterstones and go, I lettered that. Or WH going, Commando, yes, and stuff. So that's been really nice. And yeah, it does stick out like a sore thumb. If something doesn't sit right on the page and allow the reader's eye to kind of follow the flow of the story and the flow between panels and things like that, it can be really jarring. And again, that's something as you go along you learn. Again, taking on board advice from other letterers. Jim Campbell, who letters most of the things under the sun at the moment. He's a name that's going to come up a little bit later because we're organising the Tripwire Awards, and he's nominated Best Letterer in there. Yeah, definitely. There's him. There's Hass as well, who organises panel by panel as stuff, and they put out a lot of information about lettering and how to do it correctly. And Blambot, who pretty much supplies fonts for the entire indie comics scene, through his site, they've all got really good kind of lettering tutorials, guides, specific like grammatical things in relation to lettering. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Hi, Mark.
I'm so sorry.
If you can just imagine you brought the pints to the table and you're joining us mid-conversation. There you go.
I was kind of watching you on Facebook a little bit as I was trying to, my Twitter, where you sent me the link, just decided to not work. So I had to copy that and send it to myself. Oh, it's a nightmare. But here I am. Hello, Rob.
Hello. Hi. I was just talking about lettering, Mark.
Go for it. Go for it. Carry on, Rob.
Right. So yeah, no. Obviously, there's lots of really good sites out there. There's lots of good tutorials on YouTube as well, and so there's not really an excuse anymore for bad lettering because there's so much information out there for people to kind of get behind, get involved with, read up before they even attempt it and stuff, that it should be at least functional and passable. But you do see stuff nowadays, still where it genuinely looks like someone's gone on to, like I said, gone to MS Paint with Comic Sans and gone, that'll do. You know what I mean?
I hate to get political myself, but I will never shy away from any opportunity to give a kicking to Comicsgate. Have you noticed that most Comicsgate
I didn't know if I could say
have got the shitest lettering going. I don't know what it is. Yeah. They get all this money coming in and then don't invest it in decent lettering. I don't understand it. I never understand it.
It's not just that. It's not just that, though, is it? It's not invested in anything except the back pockets. But
good point.
Be that as it may. I did want to say, there's a lot of Comicsgate books that I've seen out and about which have terrible lettering. You know what I mean? And so you kind of look at this stuff and think, well, it's not about quality in comics, is it? You know what I mean? It's not about that, is it? Let's be honest. But But there we go. Yeah, lettering. There's all sorts of stuff out there for people to kind of look into and stuff, and information about that. I know, again, like I said, Haas, who does panel by panel. He's him and Ajita. I can never remember Ajita's surname. They do a lettering podcast where they talk about lettering in comics and stuff. I need to remember the name. I should have written it down. I've got some notes in front of me.
That's macro. That's going all the way in. That's deep.
I'll find you the link and I'll send it so you can maybe put it in the comments afterwards or something like that.
No worries. No worries.
Their podcast. It's really good. Cool. So yeah.
Well, very quickly, people are now going, oh, third face, what's going on? Indeed, we've got Annie May, who's actually new to the whole thing and doesn't know what the hell we're talking about. Hello, I'm new here, just called in. Hi, Annie, welcome along. Basically, what this is, it's a show which I do on a Wednesday and a Sunday where we talk to some great guests about comics, Comic-Cons, and pop culture, and just have a cup of tea and shoot the shit for an hour or so. Sorry for the swearing, but deal with it. But we've spoken to Rob, but it's now great to have Mark join us. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello.
Now, fine, thank you. Surviving. There we go. I think that should be in everyone's bio. Surviving.
Yeah, we're just getting through it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Or trying to, at least.
Yeah. We've just had a brief introduction to Rob. For yourself, so people can get an idea of who you are as the conversation goes forward. Who is Mark Jackson?
Who is Mark? Well, I'm a cartoonist, and I have created comics and characters for the Beano and Aces Weekly, Comic Scene magazine. Currently, I'm not doing it at the moment, but I do a monthly comic for Comic Scene magazine. I've done some work for Comic Heroes. I do a lot of self-publishing comics, and one of the ways that I first met Leonard was because I also am the organizer of MacPow, which is a comic art festival in Macclesfield in Cheshire, where I live. I'm not sure where to look, because wherever I look, my eyes point in a different way. I don't know. I can't look at the camera. When I look at the camera, it feels really weird. I feel like I need to look at my face.
How do you think what I do is, this is where it gets really interesting for me, and this is great because I get to watch the show back afterwards, because I've got a webcam which is a good 6 inches to a foot away from my laptop.
Right.
So I'm hearing you and involved in the conversation, and but I'm trying to be professional and looking to the camera.
It's right. Yeah.
So I then watch this back and kind of enjoy it all over again.
The green light up here, but I just feel like really weird because I feel like then you're below my chin, and that just doesn't feel right. So I feel like I need to go up to you. So I don't suppose it really matters, does it? So
really, not at all.
That was my little introduction. So yeah, basically I'm a cartoonist. I self-publish, and I've been doing that for this is my 10-year sort of coming back to comics, and then trying to do stuff to try. I grew up wanting to be a cartoonist, and then in whatever way it kind of went, different routes. I'm a graphic designer as well. Me and my wife Jane have a graphic design company. But 10 years ago, I came back to it and just started. I came out to comics sort of like 2008. I started getting into comics again. I just hadn't bought anything for such a long time, and I came and picked up comics for the first time, and they look so different than the comics I grew up with. Everything was airbrushed and everything was colored differently. The paper was shiny, and it just I didn't like it.
Everything was more expensive.
Yeah, and I just struggled to sort of to find something that. Do you know one of the biggest things that really annoyed me, and that I struggled with, is that for the most part, the person who was doing the cover of the comic I picked up wasn't doing what the interior. So whereas I grew up with pretty much most of if it was on, whoever was doing the cover was probably doing the rest of the comic as well. So the cover drew you in, and then carried that on. Whereas a lot of the time these days, the cover can draw you in maybe, and then you turn the page and like, oh, it's a different person.
Bait and switch, man. Bait and switch.
Yeah, so that happens a lot. So I struggled a bit to get back into it, and then I found the first thing I got back into was Kick-Ass. I heard about that through on Ain't It Cool News, their website, when the film was being in production, and they were like getting really excited about that. So I thought, well, what is this? And then discovered that John Romita Jr. Was the artist on it. Now I've been a fan of his since like the 80s, and so many of the comics in my collection were comics that he was illustrating, and so characters that perhaps I might not have necessarily been that interested in. I have copies of those because I loved his art. So his art got me interested in, I have nothing against Iron Man, but I was picking up Iron Man because, as you do, for me as a creator, visually, I go in with the visuals. If the story's good as well, that's a bonus. But but it's the art that got me into it.
I'm trying to remember the first John Romita Jr. book that really got my attention. I think it was Spider-Man. I think it was Coming Home. I think it was that Coming Home run. Because
is that more recent? That's kind of like
I mean it's slightly more recently. I'd say like 10-15 years ago, but it was more. It was like it was around that time when I was starting to connect names to art.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was kind of like that time when I was starting to connect the name with who was actually drawing stuff, instead of just going for the title and just going into the story without looking at the title box. If you were, instead of connecting the artist and the writer and stuff, that's only something I've done in the last 10-15 years. So it was around that same kind of time when you saw a distinctive artist on a page. And I think that was the book that I first remember and going, so that's who John Romita Jr. is. And then luckily I got to meet the guy, so that was rather.
I saw that. Yeah. No, but it was weird because I've got a few here actually. So I was gone.
I mean, out of the three of us, who has got comics to hand, like to reach and grab? Go for it. So you've got yours. Go for it, Rob.
So that's one of the John Romita Jr. Daredevils.
I've grabbed this from.
Oh, nice.
Manhattan Projects. There's Invincible under here. Saga. Giant Days is around somewhere.
I dragged all mine into the front room because I've been rereading them. So I've been going through Psy Spirit. Oh, I love you so much, Mark. I love you so much.
Oh, yes. Calvin and Hobbes.
There was a podcast, I think it was Cartoonist Kayfabe, that was doing a review of the gallery books, and I actually went on eBay just to buy them off the back of that.
Oh, those! I watched that. I watched that episode. I think that was the first, maybe the second episode of that show that I watched. I was just going through. I think I might have searched Calvin and Hobbes on YouTube. The name Cartoonist Kayfabe kept popping up because I followed Ed Piscor.
Yeah.
but I didn't really know what it was. And then I saw that and watched them basically go through the gallery edition page by page, and just got so caught up when watching them talk about it and thinking, wow, these guys are as obsessed as I am. This is fantastic. And then I discovered, so Jim Rugg, the other creator, the other cartoonist on there, I discovered his work. I didn't really know his stuff that well, but now I've sort of been going into his stuff like Street Angel and stuff like that.
Those would have been the last two. Those would have been the last two books I bought. Oh, I got a bit of echo there. Yeah, the last two books I bought before lockdown budget had to kick in.
All right, okay.
then the lockdown happened, and then all of a sudden you had to go. It's either paying for books willy nilly off eBay or food, and you have to make that decision. But
you've got to go with food, haven't you? I think.
Yeah, or just nibble on the corners of the comics, and just maintain yourself that way. So I mean, when I started, because. Just for maybe those people who were confused about why on earth we went bi-weekly with the podcast or with the show, it was because during lockdown it was going to be obvious that there was going to be no comic conventions, there was going to be no comics, there was going to be no community, and just once a week it just felt a little bit disjointed. So I wanted to do it twice a week. So I started doing the show on the Wednesday, and then we started getting guests on as the lockdown was kicking in. And the first question I always kept asking them was, so how is the lockdown affecting you? And they were just saying, well, as a comics artist or writer, I'm staying indoors, I'm locking myself away, I'm sleeping strange hours, I'm constantly stressed out, I'm just putting these books and comics together. And I just went, so literally nothing's changed for you at all. So, I mean, and I asked them about what they were reading and whatever, and it was either going to be stuff that was brand new to keep themselves focused on sort of like a forward momentum, as it were, or they were just going back and rediscovering stuff on the shelves. For the two of you, what's it been throughout lockdown? Has it been a case of sort of like going back to basics with stuff that you to rediscover, or have you just been consuming everything new that you could find?
Mark, do you want to go first? Because I've got to chat with you.
Well, for me, I've not been buying anything new, so I don't buy a lot of new stuff because I have a young family and I can't afford to just spend all my money on comics. So what I tend to do, and to be honest, a lot of new stuff I'm more at home with picking up older stuff that I didn't get at the time. And then just rereading the stuff that I've got for inspiration, to be honest. So you mentioned about cartoonist kayfabe. Around the time when I watched the Calvin and Hobbes one, they also did one about the 30th anniversary of Ninja Turtles, which whether I'm wrong in saying this, I don't know whether the Ninja Turtles are given quite the tip of the hat that they should be in terms of how they change self-publishing.
In the States, they're starting to get recognised for that. I mean, certainly when you sort of like look into the history and you look at the numbers as well that they did.
From the first issue to the second issue, the pre-orders were just insanity. You know, the first issue they did, they didn't expect it to go past the first issue. That's why they killed off Shredder in the very first issue, because they didn't think there was going to be a second issue. But then I think there's something like the pre-orders were like 8,000 copies on the second issue, and then it just went from there. And so the cartoonist kayfabe, they were talking about the whole thing, and which that then got me sort of going back to the Ninja Turtles comics that I had and having a look at those. And then I then started going back through the archives, and they've got one where they were talking about the Dark Knight Returns Artist Edition, or there's something about the Dark Knight Returns they've got, and it's Jim Rugg, Ed Piskor, and Tom Sholey, is it? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. So they're just talking about Dark Knight Returns, and then discovering Jim's work. So off the back of discovering Jim's work, and then watching them talking about the Dark Knight Returns, and then me having a look at that again, and then Ninja Turtles, and me having a look at that. That then inspired me to start doing a new thing right at the start of lockdowns, which is what I did. I started doing a comic. So I tend to do that, really. I tend to go back through. I have an idea of things I want to do, and then first thing I do is I tend to look to the comics that I've got. Well, I want to do something in space, so I'll start looking at, I've done a series, a space comic. I started doing something again new for this comic here called The Spark.
Nope, hang on. Cool.
Which is put out by Fair Spark Books, the guys who are connected to Little Heroes Kit. And so I've been doing a comic strip, like a 4-panel strip for them. And then I managed to persuade them to let me have a full page. So in issue 3 of that, this is the first issue with a glorious cover by my friend Nick Brokenshire.
We're aware of his work.
Nick is fantastic.
He's such a great guy. I only discovered Nick's work about 3 years ago. I discovered Nick for the first time about 3 years ago, and since then, not only has he come to my comic festival, I also got to go to California with him for a comic festival last year, and spend like 5 days with him, and he's a really, really nice guy, and his work's fantastic. So was that when his band played? Was that when his Star Wars themed cover band were playing as well? No, they played sorry, I'm distracted by your mug. That's fantastic.
I'm a swan.
Okay. He's talking about the actual mug you're drinking from and not your mug.
Oh,
right, that's right.
It's a very nice face. I've got a very nice face.
Thank you, Mark.
It's all right. No, I think Nick did in America. They played the Blues Harvest, which is quite possibly, in my opinion, one of the best names for a Star Wars covers band. For those people who know, they know why that's a great name for a blues band that plays Star Wars music. For those people who don't, they shouldn't be watching this, I don't think. In my opinion.
and yourself, Rob, what have you been consuming throughout the course of the lockdown?
Well, at the start, when I ran away motormouth, I kind of let slip a couple of them. I've been reading The Manhattan Projects by Jonathan Hickman and Nick Pitarra. I've just got volume 5. I've been getting them on eBay because I don't have a large budget either, to be fair. And stuff, I've been reading that. I've been reading Giant Days, which is such a great book. Such a fun, great book. So well written and characterized and stuff. So I've been reading those. I've reread some Saga, and to be fair, that's about all. I've read probably the first 3 issues of The Losers as well. I've got the first volume 1 and 2, like kind of combined soft cover through. I bought it for myself for my birthday because I had a birthday lockdown. Lockdown birthday.
Happy belated birthday to you.
It's fine. It's all good. But yeah, so I've been reading those. But like I say, I mean, problem is obviously, like I said, I work full time as well. So, and unfortunately, I've been a key worker, and so have been working the entire time as well. So I've not had loads of time to kind of chill. And then obviously with lecturing and stuff, I won't lie, I've had more lecturing work since the lockdown began than I had beforehand.
Wow.
So that's been quite fun. But yeah,
okay. I mean, let's talk about that now, because I mean, we've certainly been talking about the way that people have been keeping themselves occupied throughout lockdown, and there's just been just this massive wave of creativity that's been coming, especially here in the UK, especially from indie comics, especially from self-publishing. It's almost like there's this kind of, we're locked indoors. What else can we do? Let's just get something out. Maybe it's a project that's been percolating for a while. And I mean, the term I've used a lot on the show, and I'm going to use it again. Sorry, regular viewers. COVID babies. There's this kind of like this sense of these things that have been created while we've just been sort of like locked indoors. Has it been a lot of projects like that where people have just gone, okay, I want to get something done?
There's been a few. There's been a few like that. There's been a few that were actually kind of on the cards anyway that I had lined up, but there's been a fair few like that. Mike Sambrook, I mentioned earlier, who I write with, he and I have also had our own little COVID baby we've been working on. and stuff as well, which has been really nice. We haven't written anything for a little while. We've both been really busy with life and everything else. So we've started work on some stuff. We finished off a couple of scripts and things like that as well. Are you purely against doing it on a computer?
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting that you can see these. Sorry, I was going to bring that up to talk later. But there you go.
No, it's all right. Well, we'll come back to that then. But yeah, like I say, I mean, there's been that. There's been a few like that. There's actually one which I'm really kind of excited about, which I assume it has come about because of the lockdown. It's called Tales from the Quarantine, which is being done by Red Cabin Comics, and they've got some great names. Charlie Adlard, Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, Kieran Gillard, Declan Shelby, Ron Mars, Rachel Stott as well. You know what I mean? There's all these kind of people involved, and I've been asked a letter for that, which I'm really excited about. Mike and I have also got a little one-page thing that's gone into it as well, but that's all I can kind of say about that. They've got kind of a strict thing, but I mean that's something that's raising money for all sorts of stuff, and that's a pure COVID baby. That it's a pure COVID baby, and you've seen kind of other bits on Kickstarter about Quarantine. That comic as well by oh god, I should really remember.
Oh no, Jordan Thomas. Jordan Thomas. Yeah,
Jordan Thomas. Yeah, that's it.
We launched that on this show. We did an incident. We launched it.
They are so close. I haven't checked recently. They're so close to having Sean Phillips doing the page for it. And Derek Robertson's done a cover. You know what I mean? And so it's been really nice to see. Thank you, Paul Moore. But yeah, like I say, it's just been really nice to see kind of all these projects which people kind of thrown themselves into. And I know there's been a lot of kind of thing on, especially on social media, where people are, well, don't feel bad about not being like fantastic, super, mega productive and all this kind of stuff, because everything's all a bit doom and gloom. But it is really nice to see such a big, like you said earlier, a big wave of kind of productivity with people, because they've got a bit more kind of time to develop to things and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's been, there's been a lot of that. I personally, and I think a fair few of these projects are kind of COVID babies as well, so brilliant. More, please. For
yourself, Mark. I mean, I think also, I mean, it's slightly different for Rob, because, like you say, he's been saying that he's got the regular job. He's had this thing that's kind of kept a sense of momentum throughout the course of lockdown one. Everyone else is just struggling to kind of keep focused and keep motivated. How has it been for yourself throughout lockdown? I mean, what tricks have you picked up to do that, to keep that kind of momentum going?
Well, to be honest, I just try to keep doing what I did anyway, but just under slightly more stressful circumstances. But the biggest thing that impacted on me was literally just as we were all becoming incredibly aware of lockdown was about to happen. Sorry, I'm just distracted by what that guy is saying. But incredibly aware of what was just about to happen. I started, because I do a lot of workshops in schools and libraries and at comic festivals, and literally just saw in the space of, or being fully aware in the space of a week of losing about 6 months worth of work, to be honest. And then being aware of what, having the thought of, well, I know that come the summer, this person might have contacted me, based on what happened last year. I might have been going here. I do a great deal of work for the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, and they keep me really busy on the run up to the festival as well as for the whole weekend. So last year particularly, I was in schools with them before and after the festival. We did an immersion day with me, Sean Phillips, Nick Brokenshire, and the lovely Emily and Pigeon. And we went in, basically it was the schools in Kendal kind of came to us. We were in Kendal College, and the schools in Kendal came to us, and we did a four 1 hour drawing sessions between each of us did 4 1 hour sessions over the course of the day. And so that would happen as well. And so off the back of that, I just started to think, oh no, what am I going to do? And a friend of mine who I met last year in the States called Joe Voss, he's a cartoonist. He's the cartoonist in residence for the Charles Schulz Art Centre, Snoopy. And he's a really nice guy. Anyway, he was going to be the first guest at MacPow this year, the first American guest. He was coming over to MacPow. And so I've been in touch with him, and he seemed to be about 2 weeks ahead of the UK in terms of the lockdown, and he'd started a YouTube show, drawing every day, and I thought, you know, as we were sort of getting closer, I thought maybe I need to do that. It was something I'd been thinking about doing, but didn't think I had the time, and I still don't have the time. It had more of a necessity. It's like, okay, you better do it. So literally in the space of the week running up to the lockdown before the schools closed, I set that up, really not knowing what I was doing. And I was fortunate right at the start that the lovely Julie Tate from the Lakes Festival offered to support the channel at the start, which was really cool, and supports it now, you know, and throughout. And it just gave it a bit of validation, to be honest. And so I do a twice weekly show, Wednesday, I do Wednesday and Friday. And that's a free resource for children. So I do like a 45-minute session, and I do like all requests on the Friday. So you challenge me on my board, and I draw whatever you say in the
Nice.
comment. So that was kind of that. And then, but then I was starting to lose my print publications. I do like 2 comics a month, and 1 for Comic Scene, and that had to get put on hold. And then I also do a strip for the Brooklyn Red Hook Star Review in New York, in Brooklyn, New York. It's a community paper. And the editor of that, George, he right at the start, I turned in all the strips. It fell right when they were all due, so they all went in. And then I said to him, "What about next month? What are you thinking?" He said, "You know, get in touch with me next week, and we'll see." So because it's a community paper, it's funded by himself, and his business, his other side of it, his actual business, had taken a massive hit. Anyway, he was great. He kept that going, and but I needed to keep making comics. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop and suddenly go, oh, you know, I can't, you know, this is not what, I'm so fed up with all this. I'm just going to not do it and throw my toys out of my pram. I just thought, well, now I'm just going to keep making comics. So I started doing a weekly webcomic on Instagram, just so people had, I think it seemed to be the time to put stuff out there for people. So the YouTube show was stuff for people to watch, for families to watch and enjoy, and let the children do some drawing, and just a constant in people's lives. And I thought, well, I'll do a little webcomic, so every Friday they know that they're going to get that if people who are following me are interested. And then I needed to make some more paying work materialize. So I started using a thing called Ko-fi, which is kind of like a buy me a coffee kind of thing. Yeah. I needed to, after losing there'd been no sort of sight of when my full page on Comic Scene was going to come back. I thought I needed to fill that gap. I've worked myself for since 2006, and I know that if it goes quiet, you don't sit around waiting. You make work come. You create projects. I'm constantly approaching people. Oh, have you thought about having a comic in your magazine or this, that, and the other? And so I used Ko-fi. I thought, well, I need to do a strip. I need to do a regular strip on there, but I can only do it if it's paying. So I set like a goal. And although it would have been nice to have carried on doing the one for Comic Scene, I didn't think it perhaps had as much following to get people to really get behind it. However, at the start of the year, encouraged by my close personal friend, Sean Phillips, who's been a great guy. He's such a nice guy. I've known him since the start of the Lakes Festival, and every year he's given me more and more time and talked to me about his career and said some really, really nice things about what I've been doing. He's a really nice guy, and he just before Christmas put a painting up of Thomas Ellicker's Magnum on his Twitter. And I think he did it the year before as well, because I think I sent him the exact same tweet, which was, "This makes me want to do my Magnum PI comic." I didn't know what that actually meant. And he responded with, "Do it." So to cut a long story short, about less than a month later, I had my Magnum PI comic.
Oh, here we go.
Which is a little mini comic. Comic. And do you know what? It's bizarre. I'm a big fan of the show, but also I was inspired by Sean's comment, the fantastic work of John M. Burns in Looking. I don't know if you guys remember Looking.
I am of the age to remember.
Yeah, and so the Magnum strip in Looking was a beautiful looking strip, and then also the Mad Magazine parody by Mort Drucker, who I'm also a huge fan of. And so those three kind of elements inspired me to do it, and it was a great, and it was actually became my most successful comic that I've ever self-published. I did an article on Bleeding Cool about it, and overnight it sold out. It was insane. I only do short numbers, but I had to triple my print order. So
I haven't received mine yet.
You've not received? Did you order it?
I did, yes.
You've not received it?
No.
I sent it to you. Oh my word, Leonard! Right, I will get on that.
Excuse me. It's the only reason I've invited you on. I need to have a word. No.
I remember that you ordered one. I can't believe you didn't receive it. That's insane. I don't know why. I hope no one else didn't receive it.
No, I think what it was a case of I'll catch him at a convention down the line.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
At which point, that's a whole other conversation, and we're running out of time.
I will sort that out for you. But just to very quickly, so I basically then turned to that character and started doing a monthly strip for Magnum PI strip on Ko-fi, and people have been really getting behind that. And so, yeah, I'll stop talking now. Thank you.
Fair enough. I mean, I totally get what you're saying about kind of getting that inspiration. I mean, my personal friend, Frank Miller, he turned around and said I needed to make this a bi-weekly shows, and he said go for it in a New York accent, obviously. But and at which point I was inspired to do so. Something I don't want to get too deep into stuff, and I do want to keep it a light conversation, but I think it's only fair to ask, as self-employed artists and creators, it's been a real tough 2 months in terms of the kind of like the transient nature of what comic artists and comic writers and creators do in terms of just getting any kind of funding in. It is very much project to project. What support do you feel that you have had, not only from the government, but also from the community? How do you feel things have come together for comic creators, especially in the UK, indie and self-publishing? We'll go with Rob. I mean, with Madius, obviously, you've got that, which would have a balloon, as an umbrella, as a business. So have you had support from the government in that regard? How's
no, not really. You know, no, we've not. I mean, to be fair, we don't really do that big a business with the and stuff, and everything's kind of, because it's all mine and Mike's stuff. You know what I mean? And everything else, we kind of, I mean, both of us both work as well, so it's kind of become a hobby that's becoming a bit more than that. You know what I mean, and stuff. Yeah. So business-wise, you know what I mean, and stuff. We haven't really done much. To be fair, we haven't been promoting it that much, to be honest with you, during things. We've been kind of head down working on new stuff anyway. I mean, like, money-wise, I've been quite lucky that I've still been working, you know what I mean, because I do everything kind of on the side of that. So, and I've been really lucky in the sense of, because people have been being productive, lettering-wise, I've still been reasonably busy. I mean, with the situation with things, I've been kind of displaced. Rob for Doctor Who 2020. Sorry, just saw a comment come up. But no, with the kind of way things have gone, I've been displaced by it, to be fair. So I'm not at home. I'm home now, but you know what I mean. I'm not where I was living, and so like my girlfriend and I have to kind of set things up, and so I've been really lucky that it's been the case that there's been this booming creativity and stuff, because I've been able to make sure we've got stuff in the house, you know what I mean, for us, because we needed lots, you know, and stuff. So that's been really lucky. But business-wise, like I say, no, not a lot really.
Okay. In that case, in terms of the support of the community, Facebook groups, other creators, I mean, I've only just been included into a Zoom conversation, which I believe is going to happen next Friday. Which I'm going to be a strange lurker on that one. I don't create comics. I don't write. I don't draw. but I've been invited to kind of like sit in the corner and listen to all of this wealth of talent in a Zoom conversation.
You do moderate Comic Cons, don't you, and panels at Comic Con? So therefore, you've probably got a bit of practice in being able to wrangle us all in. You see, so
I don't know about that. But I can steer a conversation, but. I can do 1 on 2. I can do 1 on 3. I can just about handle a thing like this. 1 on 15, 1 on 20. I think I'm outnumbered, dude. But yeah, I mean, the way that the communities come together, how's that kind of work for you?
I think it's been really supportive. To be fair, the community, well, my kind of my personal kind of experience of it is everyone's been really supportive. We'll message each other, you know what I mean? Lots of people, everyone's kind of got their own like little bubbles of people that they may work with and stuff like that. And obviously I kind of work in a few, doing lettering for a few different people and stuff. So we've been checking in on each other. We've had like FaceTimes. I haven't been in the Zoom things purely because they all happen when I'm at work. So I've not bothered to kind of like poke my nose in and say, can I join in? They all seem to be happening when I'm on shift. But I won't lie. I don't know how I cope in that situation anyway. I mean, I'm a loud bloke, but I'll just end up talking over everybody. But yeah, I think the community's been really good and really kind of, like I say, rallied around one another, and everyone's like cross-promoting stuff and sharing things around and stuff like that. So I think that's been real. That's my experience, but it seemed really helpful. It seems like everyone's been really helpful because pretty much, you know, kind of figuratively speaking, everyone's in the same boat. You know what I mean? Everything, the country's kind of ground to a halt for the last 2 months, in a sense, bar essential things. So a lot of people have been kind of left with a lot of time on their hands and everything else, so people are able to engage more with others, you know. So that's been, from what I've seen, that's been really nice, you know. And it's been a nice, it doesn't describe it well, it's been really good. It's been really bolstering, and it's not just a bolstering thing just for people's creativity, but I think for the mental health as well, you know what I mean, and stuff. I think that's been really good. It's been seeing that support, even if it's just small little things. It's been a really nice thing, especially with all the crushing weight of the world around us, how it has been the last 2 months. So yeah, no, I think the community's been brilliant.
Cool. For Mark, I mean, I can imagine as well for yourself, you've had people that you would be inviting to MacPow, and they've been in touch, and I can imagine there's been that conversation backwards and forwards, especially about how that show would have gone ahead. I mean, what's been your support system been like? Yeah,
I mean, that was a hard one right at the start. You know, I was very positive about, oh well, you know, because we were talking like March, weren't we? And it's like, you know, surely by the end of June things will be better, you know, because you kind of think, because I suppose, you know, now we're so far into it, but at the start you just think, really, you know, because as a dad, if the children don't go back to school till September, they've been off for 6 months. But at the start of that, if you turn to any parent and go, do you know what, they're going to be off for 6 months, you'd be like, what? So at the start of it, I didn't think, you know, you start to think, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. But what I realised was I was listening, as I always do. I'm going to show out my age now, but I listen to Radio 2 every day. I'm not afraid to say that on this. And they were chatting. So yeah, so they were chatting on Jeremy Vine about cancelling things, and it was right at the start when. And they were saying about, you know, because obviously people were cancelling weddings, and they were chatting to a doctor, and they were saying about weddings. And one person said, you know, had one sort of like in March or whenever. It was like, well, obviously. And then somebody said one in June, and so let's say this. I think it was March. It was mid-March when I said I postponed MacPow, and she said, yeah, I would postpone that one as well. And that's when it hit me, and I just thought, yeah, because. And what I've realised with like, for instance, the Lakes, because they've announced that they're going to be, that's fully a virtual festival now. And some might say, well, why have they done it so soon? Because that's not till October. Who knows? We might be all right. But as anyone who organises an event like this knows, you don't just organise it a couple of weeks before. You kind of organise it all the time. And that became my realisation. I kind of blindly went into organising the little event in Macclesfield. This would have been our 5th year, and with no thought beyond doing one, because I just thought, well, I'll do one, and then that's what I'll have done. And then it went well, and it went really well, and then it kept getting better and better. And so it takes, whereas the first one took a matter of kind of like maybe, you know, let's say 4 months at the most. Well, no, not 4 months. I'm doing myself a disservice. It was being talked about, but it wasn't the thing in my head all the time.
Yeah.
Now I'm literally thinking about the next one before the first one's even happened sometimes, you know, oh, well, that person for next year and stuff like that. And so there's so much goes into it that you can't go, well, let's just see what happens in a couple of weeks' time. You've got to make a sensible decision. And so I just thought that is the sensible decision to do. And most of the people who are involved have come back and said, you know, it must be a tough decision, but I'll be back next year. And so many of the exhibitors who paid for a table, they said, for the most part, some people, you know, I said, if you want a refund, you can, obviously. And some people did, and I totally understand why. And then other people said, just leave it till next year. But what that does as well is that, unfortunately, means that we're always going to be playing catch up for how long, because it's great that these people have said, hold it till next year. But we've lost this year. And so we've lost the money that it generates to keep it going. You know, I operate it on a very small budget in terms of you know, comic events, and do the best I can with the amount of money I have. But it's going to have an impact on it. It's going to take a few years after this for it to get back on its feet, I suppose.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll put this to the pair of you then, because I mean, obviously, as a convention organizer, Mark, and as somebody who attends and exhibits at conventions and tables at conventions, Rob, this year, to just from March to whenever, I mean, we can't determine when it's going to kind of get back to some kind of normality and a show will return. And we'll get to Thought Bubble as the final question of the whole session.
That's reading my mind there, Leonard. I was literally thinking about that.
Yeah. Just how painful has it been for the UK small press and independent comics to not have conventions this year? Because it is a major revenue stream. It is a way of connecting with an audience. Obviously, there's other avenues. There's other ways of reaching out to people on Facebook and whatever. But the conventions is a unique experience to interact with that audience face to face. How painful has it been to lose 2020? We'll start with Rob.
All right. It's been really crap, to be fair. It's been that's an understatement. It's been really horrible. Us at Madius, we normally do. We kind of streamlined our cons a little bit. We don't really do 2 at the moment. We were looking to do 4 this year, though. We were looking to go down to London, and we were also looking at the Lakes and wanting to apply for that, strangely enough. And yeah, obviously Glasgow cancelled, and Glasgow is one of our mainstays. We love that. We love the people that attend the convention. We love the people that exhibit at the convention. We love the people that organise the convention. You know what I mean? So that's been a real kind of kicker. I think there's definitely lamenting, like obviously, like you said, the revenue stream, but there's also the social aspect of it, the social side. Because everybody kind of interacts on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that and talks, but like it's really great to be able to share the convention centre with loads of people that you get on with really well. You know what I mean? And you only get to see at these events. And you'll know, Leonard and Mark, you know what I mean? You've either been at conventions or whichever. They go by like that. They're gone.
Yeah.
And it's like a horrible kind of fleeting moment where you get to just interact, you know, be around all the people that you really like. And that's one of the things that's really hit me, I think, as well, is the social aspect of going, oh crap, I'm not going to see friends and everybody else, you know, that I love kind of keep, you know, meeting up with and seeing and stuff like that. And also it's a big kick in the teeth as well to the industry as well, you know, in that kind of sense too, because again, there are also meeting points for sparks of creativity as well and stuff like that, and being able to get like the guests that a lot of people do over and stuff is going to make things difficult. I know, obviously, things like Glasgow had to cancel. I've seen, like you said, Mark, about the Lakes doing everything online. I know, like you said earlier, about people trying to think their way around it. I've seen things like Tom Ward, who does Merrick the Elephant Man, has done stuff like Talkin Con, which is a virtual one, and loads of people join in, hashtag and stuff like that, which is to try and obviously promote and sell books and stuff like that. But again, I think it's been a real kind of loss. I think we've written off 2020, to be completely honest with you.
To derail the question and kind of take it into a little tangent, for Mark, you'll probably know more about the kind of this landscape. Are we going to lose a number of creators because the money has not come in this year from cons? From actually getting books out there?
What you mean in terms of who will come to them?
Well, I mean, who's probably invested money in getting books printed up that are now they're not going to be able to sell, or they're not. So the investment in putting towards tables, that can kill a creator. That can.
Yeah, it can. But I think something I heard or read was, and it dawned on me that a lot of people are only creating comics to sell at comic events, and I suddenly thought, oh, is that what some people do? And I understand why they do that, but I think if you want to do this as your job or as part of your job, and you want it to not be hit so hard by I'm going to miss. Obviously, I'm losing work I get, especially when I'm at Lakes. I attend that, and I'm paid to be there because I do workshops the whole weekend. Mm-hmm. So that's but I'm doing workshops for them for the virtual one. But I think if you are only making comics because you sell them when you go to events, you've got to look at, well, you should be if you want to do this and you don't want it to really affect you, you've got to be making them anyway to sell them however you can. Don't just rely on the comic, because this is going to come along and it's the first thing that'll come along and you're like, oh, I've got all these things printed and now I can't go to this event. Well, you can't put all your eggs in that basket. You've got to still be trying to get them out. The comic event is a great way to get them in front of people. But if you really want to do this and you don't want to you want to carry on doing this, you've got to be able to you've got to be able to sell them without a comic event. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Things like Kickstarter and stuff like that. Obviously, we've seen some really great creative Kickstarters over the last couple of weeks, couple of months. You know what I mean? And there's some really big names moving to Kickstarter. I'm really glad, obviously, that the kind of unionization thing has gone through as well. You know what I mean? That's made it feel a little less shill-like to kind of work on there, you know, and do your stuff. Obviously, through Madius, we do Kickstarters. We've done, I think it's 5. I can't remember off the top of my head, which is ridiculous. But we've done, I think we've done 5 Kickstarters and things like that as well. And so, like Mark said, you've got to be able to, if you're wanting to do it, you can't just put everything into one stream of things. You've got to look at ways and means of splitting that up, and it's about getting as many eyes on things as possible. If you limit yourself to one route, just conventions, then again, there's always the chance of something like this coming up, something like a pandemic. There's always a chance of something happening. Those cons going south, things like that. So you need to be able to diversify in that kind of sense.
Sure. I think for myself, it wasn't that, I mean, I totally get what Mark took from my question, but I think it was more a case of that investment that people have made in the beginning of 2021, and the fact that the world just stopped pretty much on a dime. It really, and it really was within like a week and a half, 2 weeks, the world just dropped to a standstill, and all of a sudden we've all had to just change our plans. I mean, you were talking, Mark, about when that penny dropped about what the rest of the year was going to look like, with something that someone said. Someone just suddenly, it was around that March time when someone turned around and went, they're not going to open pubs again until November. And I just went, that's my revenue stream. That's my job gone for the year. And you just go, and that realization of what means. Let's I said we were going to keep it to a tight hour. We're at the hour point, and we could just carry on going. And I'd love to. I really would. Got a couple of comments that have come in though, so let's cover some questions that have come in. Number one, let's just very quickly put this up. Where on earth is it? It was in there, and it was about Magnum PI is one of the best shows ever. So there you go. They've got a definite sale there. Check out the book because it is. I mean, yeah, there you go. It's on screen. Check it. It's very cool. All new adventures. But the comment is coming from Solicitor of Smeg. When things normalize, do you think that their sales spike due to fans being hungry for comics that might get people into comics that might not have picked up before? I think. I mean, we kind of covered this on previous episodes, where it's that real kind of drive for story and drive for entertainment and a real drive for things to consume, do you think there's going to be a real uptick in comics fans at the end of this?
I hope so. I do. That's the most honest answer I can give. I really hope so. You know, obviously, like you said, people at the moment, people have turned to the arts, haven't they? Let's be entirely honest with you. Throughout this whole thing, people have turned to the arts, and that's from the latest show on Netflix to books to comics to whatever, music. People have turned to the arts,
Cooking.
and hopefully that continues.
Cooking,
you know what I mean? And
bread.
Cooking, yeah. Create, and obviously by that, somebody needs to get Kim Joy to write a comic, right? And you get that crossover. You get that crossover from cooking to comics, and then we're all on Easy Stream. We'll all be doing like cooking comics and stuff like that. But I think I'd like to see it uptake in it. I'd like people to, you know what I mean? Not because of a fear of going, oh crap, we might be locked down again for 2-3 months or whatever. Just purely because there's hopefully a bit more of a kind of drive for, like you said, narrative, for stories, for escapism, I suppose. We live in a world which is a bit scary, you know, and that's an understatement. And escapism is one of the main drives for seeking out art and stuff like that. And obviously, hopefully, people will be wanting to kind of dive into books and I'm hoping dive into comics. Like I say, because me and Mike have got all sorts of plans that we've been knocking together and stuff, and we'd love to get them out to place. I'm sure Mark's the same. You know what I mean? He's obviously working on his new thing and stuff. So I'm going to say I hope so, which isn't that definitive, but that's what I'm doing.
No, I get it. Mark?
Yeah, no, I just I hope it kind of carries on, and it's been a great chance to sort of because you've had people's attention because people have needed some content, and so it was a great time, and that's why I felt if you're not doing things in this time, then you maybe missing out, because it's a great time to put stuff out there, and like for instance, like Jacob Phillips, and him and Chris Condon, they were about to launch their first Image comic. I think it would have been out now actually, or is out? Yeah, I think it was supposed to come out last Wednesday.
Yeah,
so that had to be put on hold. It's coming out the end of June, I think now. But then they just started up a Patreon, and they put they've been serializing or started a new comic strip on their new 8-page comic called Brutal Dark, I think it is. There you go, Jake. He's getting a right old plug there. That's all right, isn't it? But it's like a crime comic, and they just and again, so they couldn't get the comic they wanted to get out there in print. So rather than go, oh, we're so fed up, which they probably were, because they couldn't wait. It was their first Image comic together. They just thought, well, I tell you what, let's use the channels that we can. Let's do something else and get something else out there. So now we've got 2 things coming out there. We're coming at 2 different angles, and the fans who might not have even known we were doing this other comic have now learned about that through the webcomic. And then when the print comic comes out, we'll have that as well, and we'll have the webcomic. So, you know, if you keep making stuff, people, as they say, people will come.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was one of the better Kevin Costner impressions I've seen. Congratulations on that. I mean, we've got Mark Abner, who we all know, all love as well. Mark is a top bloke. Lots of people accessing different media platforms for the first time. Webtoon, etc., keeps growing outside of Asia. There are a lot of people who will have less cash flow post-COVID and will try to get their entertainment in new platforms and services. That's an interesting point. The whole way of different avenues of taking on board content is definitely, I mean, my YouTube viewing has gone through the goddamn roof throughout this entire thing. I mean, people talk about, I mean, you talk about the streaming wars and the different streaming channels. The amount of YouTube channels that I am now consuming on a regular, it's a lot. It is a lot. But also just to kind of talk about the conventions and how things could be looking towards the back end of the year. A lot of conversation at the moment in the Q&A regarding second wave. I mean, we've got Mark, who's also saying possible second wave, and we've got the whole idea. I mean, we've got a couple of comments as well coming in from the American viewers. Hello, guys. Anyone heard anything about NYCC? And obviously, we've had the Read Pop survey, so we think that's going to be going virtual. So let's wrap up on one final question then for you guys. Thought Bubble. It is the single biggest comics-led convention here in the UK. It is based in a building which currently is still packed to the gills as a Nightingale hospital. Yay or nay?
Well, do you know, I mean, as far as, because I was involved with Thought for the first time last year, and was going to be again this year, and as far as they are promoting it, it's happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so I don't know. Whether they're promoting it like it's happening because they want to keep that going, and then we'll reveal a new plan, but still have everybody that they're promoting involved. I don't know. But it's it will soon be. It'll soon be. It's June tomorrow.
It'll soon be here. Yeah.
It'll soon be here, and at the moment, do you think that's possible? I don't know. They must be making a decision, but I don't know. I'd love to think it was, but I'd love to think it was in a world that perhaps isn't the one we're in at the minute, because in the world we're in at the minute, I don't know how it could be possible. But
I mean, then again, we could also talk about the fact that the world stopped on a dime. It could get back up and running relatively quickly.
It could, yeah. We did, and you know, and who's to say how this is going to work? It could be. You know, it's all well and good to sort of be doom and gloom and go, oh, there's second wave, but there's also the chance of, well, what if there isn't, and what if we're okay, and who knows? Because this time last year, none of us knew this was. I know people have talked about. Bill Gates was talking about this. Things were coming like this, but nobody knew this was going to happen. You know, when it was going to happen, if you know, and it just happened, didn't it? Really felt like it just suddenly. It's like, oh, hang on a sec, what's going on? You know, the first time I'd heard about coronavirus must have been January. It wasn't in December. I think it was some point in January they started talking about it on the news. And discussing it on January Fine. You know, little pockets of it every now and then. And then suddenly it's more, and suddenly it's more, and then suddenly the entire show is about the coronavirus. So I have no clue. It's whether people will feel comfortable going.
I think also the fact that it's an international show, and Into the Blue Mister put something up, and I think we'll jump into Rob for his comment on this one. With Thought Bubble will occur, just scale back with UK-based guests instead of international ones.
I mean, that could work. That could work. I mean, this would have been Madius Comics' sixth Thought Bubble in a row. We've been, you know what I mean. We put in for it. We paid for our table. We've left it because it was the back end of the year. We've left it. At the moment, we've left it. We cancelled Glasgow, which wasn't the best. We didn't like doing that. But with Thought Bubble, we thought, well, there's more time to see what plays out. From what I understand, they've been talking about changing dates. There's been a look in at changing the date of it. And obviously, again, if things trend downwards, because it's never just going to go away. But if it gets to the point where this initial first burst of I mean, I'm not a virologist or anything like that, but obviously this initial burst of this thing goes through, and we all learn better ways to deal with things and better ways to deal with it and stuff, then great, and that's fine. But like with regards to us, I mean, like with Madius, Mike's got Crohn's. You know what I mean? So there's a compromised immune system. So if things are going on and they still decide to kind of put it, we won't be going. You know what I mean? If that's the case and stuff. And obviously, I think it's a difficult balance. There's all these things and all these. It's like all the gigs that have been cancelled and things like that. I think it's a case of public safety comes first. Like you said, Leonard. Obviously, the Harrogate Convention Centre is a Nightingale hospital at the moment. We don't know if that's going to. Obviously, hopefully that won't be the case for the next few months. But then you're talking about October, November time, which is the time when you get the uptick in flu and colds and things like that. And obviously, if you've got flus and colds and COVID mixed all together, and everybody talks about concrud, you're all shaking hands, you're all in each other's spaces and faces and stuff like that. I think even if it does go ahead, it'd be a massively, drastically different type of convention. I think face coverings would have to be had. You know what I mean? There'd be no handshake, things like that. You know what I mean? And I think it would be, again, it'd be much more limited in the amount of people that could probably come because of, again, I don't see social distancing going away. I don't see the idea of that going away for a while. You know what I mean? Until until we've got more things under control. So
the concept of social distancing will go away. People's actually adherence to it, whole of the ball game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you there, and that's a whole other thing that I could sit here and moan about for an hour.
We could go into something else there.
Optimist in me goes, please, I hope so. You know what I mean? I really want it to be, but the realist in me is kind of going, I think we should write it off and start next year when we've got those things, which is horrible to say because, again, all the money, time, everything else invested in it. You know what I mean? That's a huge loss. And obviously, again, the social aspects of it, new comics and stuff like that. But I think safety-wise and measuring things up that way, that's got to kind of outweigh other things. So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents on it. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, we'll kind of wrap things up with a couple of comments. We've got ourselves Andrew English, last con in Liverpool I attended, photo shoots, you didn't shake hands, arms, hugs around each other. So it was very much a distance kind of element. That is very much a pop culture show where that whole idea of interaction is one thing. Mark Abnett was due to be my first year tabling T-Bubs, but due to my partner's immunity suppression, I can't see myself attending. That is going to be a big thing for a lot of people. I can totally appreciate that. Solicitor Smeg, if someone coughs at a con, everyone's just going to dive for the nearest cover. Yes, if anything, you're going to see a lot of people going under the tables a lot faster than that. And also, we can't, I mean, I've kind of thrown that question at you. We can't, like I say, the world changed so quickly, and we can't even determine what's going to be what the landscape's going to be in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. We don't have that crystal ball. But Solicitor Smeg does suggest a new idea for Marvel's What If series. What if Corona edition? Just the various things that we could do, and the various things that can happen in the world of comics and Comic Cons, and just the way that we're all interacting. It's things to look forward to, for better or for worse. Guys, I think I've kept you long enough. I know that one of you's got kids to put to bed, so I know that we've got to let you go, and we could just carry on going. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Rob, I think you've got yourself a fair old list of stuff you can promote. Where can people find you online, and what you're up to, sir?
Okay, so for myself personally, on Twitter at Rob Jones Writes, which is to make things nice and confusing. So on Facebook, if you search for Rob Jones Lettering, you can find me there. There's also Madius Comics. If you just type in Madius Comics on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, you can find us there. I've got a Kickstarter launching in the next few weeks, which is called Hell in Stalingrad, which is a kind of cross-promoted thing between Madius Comics and Mad Robot Comics. Matt Hardy, the writer there, he and I have teamed up. It's a 60-plus page pulp war horror story set in the midst of the Battle of Stalingrad. As I mentioned earlier, I'm lettering Tales from the Quarantine for Red Cabin Comics. And then Madius have got all sorts of stuff coming out. We've got Bun Free, The Incredible Bun Free. We put out a comic last year at Thought Bubble called The Exchange, and we've got the follow-up coming to that. Griff Gristle 4, which if you follow Madius Comics, you'll know Griff Gristle is one of our big Kickstarter comics that we do. The 4th one's coming, and we're also doing a 2nd edition of our kind of Future Shocks meets stupid comedy paperbacks and ink stains. Volume 2 is being worked on and put together and pieced together at the same time. So yeah, and we've got some longer form stuff coming, Mike and I. We've got some bigger projects that we put together, but we're keeping them slightly under wraps at the moment so we can share a bit more about them. But yeah, can find us all there. Come follow me and shout random annoying things at me into the void.
Well, I knew there was a lot of stuff, so that's why I gave you the opportunity to go first. Rob, thank you very much indeed for that. For yourself, Mark, what have you? Well, let us know where we can find you online and what you've got coming down the line.
Yeah, you can find me as Mark Makes Comics, MARC, Mark Makes Comics. In fact, there you go. Mark Makes, where is it at? There you go. Mark Makes Comics.co.uk. Mark Makes Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Etsy, I don't know, MySpace, your local post office.
Carrier pigeon, mental telepathy.
All those things. So Mark Makes Comics, and I'm also on Ko-fi, which is ko-fi.com, Mark Makes Comics. So if you find me on Ko-fi, just search Mark Makes Comics and it'll come up. And that's where I'm serializing, doing a monthly Magnum, continuing all new adventures of Magnum there. I have my webcomic Bring the Ninja on Instagram, which is a weekly thing, and that's going to be out in print at the start of July. I'm compiling all the comics together that I've done so far, and some that are coming over the next few weeks as a little collection. So I'm basically still making comics, so I'm getting some physical things out as well. And then I'm also going to restart this series on Ko-fi as well, which is why I launched it at Thought Bubble last year. And the plan was to have 4 issues complete and then take the collection to Thought Bubble this year. But then I just couldn't focus on doing a 24-page comic, and that's why I started just doing more and more strips. So I'm kind of rebooting it online. So there will be a brand new issue 1. It's just going to be slightly different, but it will arrive in print at some point, hopefully around the time of the lakes. And if you're in Brooklyn, New York, reading my comic strip in the Brooklyn Red Hook Star Review, those guys are having a hard time over there with everything that's going on. Not just the coronavirus anymore, which is because that's the kind of thing that happens in America, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's all going to hell again. And so for people who are being affected by that, it's a shocking situation. It really is.
That's a whole other hour.
It is indeed. So I'm reading comics, and I appreciate you having me on. Nice to meet you too, Rob. And maybe you should come to MacPow next year.
Nice to meet you. I'd love that, mate. I would love that, definitely. Sign me up. I'll be there.
All right.
We've got a couple of comments. Paul Moore is talking Helen Stalingrad, can't wait. We usually would do a crowdfunding spotlight, so we'll definitely love to spotlight that. So get information about that. We'll get that up on the end of the show in a couple of weeks. We've also got people talking about Concrud, just to wrap things up. Karen Session got a case of Concrud last year. I survived, and I'm an old lady. Andrew English, I got Concrud from 2 cons at the beginning of March. And then Solistrous Meg, I've never had it. I've been lucky. I've got a couple of hangovers from after parties, though. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Excellent stuff. Right, for myself, Leonard Sultana, you can find me on all the social medias at Englishman SDCC, of course. You can also follow stuff that I do on the conventioncollective.com/Englishman in San Diego. Just to quickly talk about the guests that we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got Louise Saul and Dave Taylor on Wednesday's show. Fred Bland Lente is going to be joining us with Tina Gann on Sunday next week. I haven't amended this graphic. Wednesday, the 10th of June, we've got ourselves Alex Packnadell and Declan Shalvey, who's going to be joining us. That's going to be an interesting show. We are yet to fill out the rest of the Sunday and Wednesday shows between the 14th and the 24th. We are going to be doing a cross show with the Con show. So Jim Fry, the Con guy, is going to be coming on. We're going to be doing a bit of a kind of like a strange pollination kind of cross direction kind of show. More details to that on the way. We're also going to be getting Rachel Hine from Nerdist on as well, so looking forward to that. And at the end of the month, Russ Burlingame and Mike Avilia, through massive demand, we are going to be getting those boys back for another show as well at the end of the month. That has been... and now we've got phones.
1 second, Leonard. Hello?
I bet it's Sean Phillips.
Leonard's my personal friend, Bill Sienkiewicz. Leonard was upset, but you are going to come on. He's going to come on, Leonard. He's going to come on the show. He's going to do it. All right, okay. It's on camera. It's on camera here, Bill. No, he's going to come on.
Sorry, can you reach that? Can you just? I can't quite get hold of that.
Yeah, he's coming on. All right, Bill. It's nice to see you. Stay well, Bill. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for that. Listen, I have messaged Bill Sienkiewicz and basically said, forget the TBA nonsense. Any day, any time that you want to come on, we'll sort. No, listen.
No, that was Bill. That was Bill on the phone. He's coming on. That wasn't. Yeah, that was real.
Okay. I think I know when I'm being punked here. Okay, guys, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Everybody, hopefully you can join us for another Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Please join us for our show on Wednesday. Like I say, it's going to be a cool one. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Please stay safe. Do what you can to protect yourself, not only like Mark mentions, in terms of COVID, but just generally, it's a wild world out there. Please try and look after you and yours. From us to you, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Is it? Are we off?
We stay on.